Okay. Hi, everyone. For our presentation, we are going to be doing immigrant children and language brokering. My name is Kari, Bendt, and I am in the advanced standing full-time clinical program.
My name is Brianna Costello, and I am in a social work major.
And I'm Leeni Shrestha, and I'm with MSU MSW program, the weekend program.
My name is Courtney Vogt, and I'm in the Advanced Standing Program clinical track at Oakland.
So every year there are a lot of people who immigrate from different parts of the world to United States in hopes that for the better future for themselves and for their families. And most of the time when they come here, they do face several barriers, and one of them is language. Parents usually have a hard time learning the language of English language, whereas children, their immigrant children, they do learn the language a lot faster, and they're able to speak a lot faster than the parents. So as a result, their immigrant children help as translators for their families, which is also known as language brokering. So what is language brokering? Language brokering, according to Klein, Crafter, Odell, and Arbery, language brokering by children and young people from immigrant families typically involves translating or interpreting on behalf of adults, family members, or siblings in conversations with officials or professionals who do not speak the family's home language or their native language. Next slide, please. So today we will be exploring language brokering in different aspects, like in the healthcare environment, school environment, and how language brokering affects the relationship between immigrant parents and children, as well as the positive and negative aspects of language brokering. Next slide. So first, we will be looking at language brokering in the healthcare environment. So according to CAST, immigrant children have bigger obligations than, let's say, professional interpreters, because professional interpreters have limited responsibilities. They come, translate, and then they go. Whereas the immigrant children, they have to spend time filling out applications, finding treatments online, and calling for referrals, and calling for to fill prescriptions. But besides all these responsibilities, they also provide like a bridge between the healthcare providers and the parents, because these immigrant children do get, besides learning English faster, they are also acculturated with American culture. So they also act as a cultural gap between healthcare providers and then the parents. Regardless of the language brokering experience these children, immigrant children have, they still have hard time, because in this healthcare environment, they do use a lot of hard medical terms that we do not use every day in our everyday language. So because of that, it might cause issues. And also because of that, healthcare providers do tend to view immigrant children as not as effective language brokers, for instance, like professional interpreters, because if they don't get the prescription right, or if they don't understand the medical instruction, then it can be very crucial for their patients. However, at the same time, at the end, immigrant children do play a really big major role in this as language brokers, because for all the parties involved, their main goal is good health and good well-being for the parents who are the immigrant parents. Oh, next slide.
We will also be talking about immigrant children and their journey through the educational system here in the U.S. They often face many difficulties and typically end up serving as a translator between their teachers and their parents. They themselves are still learning English some of the time, so this makes it especially difficult. According to Ellsworth, in the United States alone, English language learners are one of the fastest growing populations within the educational system. And according to the National Center for Education Statistics, the number of children between the ages of 5 and 17 who did not speak English at home grew from 4.7 million in 1980 to 11.2 million in 2009, which really shows exponential growth. Language barriers can impact a student's ability to perform well in school and can eventually have long-term negative effects on their academic success. So where is the communication gap? Oftentimes, teachers may not be properly trained, have the right resources available, or just be generally equipped to assist immigrant families. Sometimes children in other countries have more autonomy with schooling, and other cultures sometimes don't even encourage parents to communicate with staff unless there are pressing issues with the student, according to Ariza. So we can see that there are some cultural differences to take into account when considering the lack of communication between parent and teacher. When parents don't actively and consistently engage in communication, however, the children are left to relay the information themselves, and that can be a lot of responsibility for an already stressed adolescent mind. There are already other barriers oftentimes present with immigrants coming to the U.S., including climate expectations, culture, content, resources, delivery, and assessments, according to the Michigan Department of Education. There are significant ways to help bridge this gap, and there are safeguards in place to help ease the transition of immigrant children into the educational system. Organizations like one that we learned about in class, Samaritas in Detroit, Michigan, helps with this. Groups like these help both children and parents adjust to their surroundings, and they provide a number of services through their student impact programs such as tutoring, English language instruction, translation services, and special programs to even help acclimate parents into their new lives here, from English language training, American culture and norms, and engage with others through support groups that might be going through the same thing. Lastly, educating school staff on various aspects of different cultures and initiating language learning programs and building communication skills between both the teacher and student and parent can help ease the process of maneuvering through the educational system as an immigrant child.
Okay, so next I'm going to be talking about the parent-child relationship and brokering. Child brokering can have significant impacts on the parent-child relationship. If the parents of the child do not speak or read English, the child may be expected to translate important documents such as credit card bills, bank statements, insurance forms, etc. This can be extremely stressful for the child, and home management language brokering requires high-level cognitive skills and exposes youth to the family's financial, legal, and health issues. And the parents may pressure the child to not make mistakes in translating important home documents, and this stressful experience may be especially difficult for younger adolescents. So the use of children as language brokers forces them to act in a role different from the one they are traditionally used to, and this may shift the power role structures within the family and subsequently create stress within the family unit. Language brokering experiences that produce elevated stress for youth and their parents will have adverse impacts on parenting and parent-youth relationships. And elevated stress may lead to a series of maladaptive processes involving parents' distress, family conflict, and less effective parent processes. So highly demanding language brokering activities also risk providing youth with excessive power in the parent-child relationship. And this means parent may be unable to maintain appropriate decision-making authority. And when compared to older adolescents. Younger adolescents have fewer cognitive skills in areas such as working memory, processing speed, and reasoning. This means stress in children is likely to vary depending upon their developmental age. And a study of Latino immigrants found language brokering is associated with lower levels of parental decision-making authority, lower levels of parental knowledge, and less parent-child closeness. So the parent-child bond in terms of acculturation can also be affected. Parents are more likely to hold on to values traditional of their home culture, and children are more likely to want to acculturate into the host culture. And some adolescents have the perception that their parents are not capable of defending them from any dangers of the neighborhood they live in. And also they may view their parents as obstructing their process of acculturation and their struggle to achieve mastery and control in their new environment.
So 20% of the nation's population aged 5 years or older spoke a language other than English at home, according to Kim and Lazavari. A majority of the United States does not speak English well or at all, and then as a result, they have a difficult time obtaining necessary resources for themselves, such as medical care, education, and things like that. So, as Leeni stated, children are the brokers of their family to obtain these resources. And oftentimes, they are the glue that is holding their family together. Next slide. So, there are positive aspects to child brokering. When an immigrant youth experiences confidence, when they feel confident in their brokering skills, they are more likely to feel positive and confident and participate in brokering in general. And also, when immigrant youth view brokering as a norm, such as if they have a friend who is an immigrant who also brokers for their family, they will own this role and be okay with brokering. And according to a study by Cam and Lazavari, positive feelings included feeling proud, helpful, and useful. So with feeling proud, immigrant youth as brokers obtain resources for their families and they own their successes. Okay.
Okay, next slide.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with positive aspects, there are also negative aspects. Immigrant youth are more likely to resent their parents. So with this resentment, they may become frustrated that their parents do not know how to navigate through the modern American culture. As a result, their entire family unit will experience family acculturation stress, and the youth will internalize this themselves as feelings of depression, anxiety. They may view their parents as a burden, and they may also experience embarrassment. So what can social workers do to best serve immigrant youth brokers? In week 1, we talked a little bit about the NASW Code of Cultural Competence, and in its contents, there are 10 standards for cultural competence in social work practice. Social workers need to be familiar with these 10 standards, especially when working with immigrant youth. So for this presentation, in regards to immigrant youth brokering, we kind of focused on 2 that highlighted this topic. So standard 10, cross-cultural leadership. Social workers must communicate information regarding their diverse client groups. And then standard 9, language diversity. Social workers must provide or advocate for information, referrals, and services in the language that is appropriate for their client. So this may include interpreters for the family rather than having the child as their broker. So in conclusion, we talked about immigrant youth holding an important place in their families as brokers, regardless of their age. They fill the gap between their parents, families, and the outside world by going to medical appointments, parent-teacher conferences, and filling out forms, ultimately translating all of this jargon for their parents. We talked about positive and negative aspects for immigrant youth language brokering, how that affects youth positively and negatively. and there's room for research as the American population is increasing with immigrants. And ultimately, upholding the NASW standards for cultural practice is important here.
Okay, so this is just a list of our references, and thank you guys for watching our presentation. Bye.